let's talk about the first isomorphism theorem today. Before that, let me tell you what isomorphisms are. We've talked about homomorphisms so far. So what's an isomorphism of R modules? So suppose I have two R modules M and N. R is some fixed ring. They both say left modules over a given ring. A map F from M to N is said to be an isomorphism if it is, well, firstly it needs to be a homomorphism. So let me phrase it like this. A homomorphism F from M to N is said to be an isomorphism if it admits an inverse. Okay, so which means there is a map G in the opposite direction. If there exists G such that G is a homomorphism also, and F and G are mutual inverses of each other, which means F composition G is the identity map on N and G composition F is the identity map on M. Okay, now here's a little proposition which makes it easy to check that a given map is an isomorphism. You don't really need to look for a homomorphism G in the opposite direction and so on. If F is a bijection, okay, so proposition is the following: F from M to N is an isomorphism is the same as saying if and only if F is a bijective homomorphism. Okay, and bijective just means it's a one-to-one onto map of sets. So from M to N it should be a bijection and it should be a homomorphism. Okay, now if you have these two properties, then that's enough to find a map G. So I'm going to leave the checking as an exercise. Why? Because recall, if I have a bijection between these two, between any two sets, then I have something called an inverse set map. At the moment, this is only a map of sets, if you wish, okay, which goes in the opposite direction. But it's very easy to check that because F is a homomorphism, the inverse map will also get the same properties. It will also acquire the same properties of a homomorphism. Okay, so you can check that easily. So here's a little exercise. Isomorphism is nothing but a bijective map of sets which is also a homomorphism. Okay, now let's also introduce two more words. We sometimes talk about endomorphisms. Okay, so what's an endomorphism? An endomorphism is a map, is a homomorphism between the same spaces. So if I have a homomorphism from a module M to itself, then we usually say this is an endomorphism of M. Okay, so endo just means inside or within, so it just maps M back to itself. So such a map, a homomorphism from M to M, is called an endomorphism of M, and similarly an isomorphism from M to M is called an automorphism of M. Okay, so if F from M to M turns out to be an isomorphism, then we usually call this an automorphism. Okay, so these are just two more words which are used as shorthands to say that both M and N are actually the same module M in those cases. Okay, so we now know homomorphisms, isomorphisms, endomorphisms, automorphisms. Now let's look at some examples of isomorphisms. So if I take my ring to be the ring of integers, then modules are nothing but abelian groups. So let's take here the abelian groups Z and 2Z. So 2Z just means the set of all even integers. This is a submodule of M. Okay, but observe that even though N is a submodule of M, M and N are actually isomorphic to each other. Okay, here's an isomorphism. So consider the map N going to 2N. This is an isomorphism of Z modules because, well, notice that, well, firstly it's a bijection because it's clearly a 1-to-1 map, it's on 2 because all even numbers occur here, and it's a homomorphism of Z modules because, recall, we said before, a homomorphism of Z modules is nothing but a homomorphism of abelian groups, and this is of course a homomorphism of the underlying abelian groups Z and 2Z. So this is an isomorphism. In fact, this is not the only one. You can also construct another isomorphism between these two modules, which is Z n going to minus 2n. Okay, that's also an isomorphism. So in fact, when two modules are isomorphic, it's not always that there is a unique isomorphism between them. There are often many different isomorphisms between two isomorphic modules even. Okay, so that's the notion of isomorphism. Now, two more important notions, which again are things which you have seen already in the case of groups and rings and so on, is the notion of a kernel and an image of a homomorphism. So suppose I have F from M to N. Okay, suppose this is a homomorphism of R modules. So let's say both M and N are modules over a fixed ring R. Then we talk about the kernel. So this is the definition. The kernel of this map is all elements which map to 0. The image of this map is of course just the image, the sense just f of x as x ranges over M. So clearly this is a sub of N, this is a sub of M, subset of M and N, and here's the immediate proposition: the kernel is a submodule of M and the image is a submodule of N. Okay, so let me prove this. Well, I'll prove one of them, the other is easy. In fact, both are easy. So let's check that the kernel is a submodule, for example. Okay, so let's check the first guy, the kernel. So what do I need to check? Well, I need to check two things to check that it's a submodule. First, I need to check closure under addition. So if I take two elements x and y in the kernel, I need to check whether x plus y is in the kernel too. Okay, and how do I check whether their sum is in the kernel? Well, I'll act f on it and see if it gives me 0. Okay, but in this case, f of x plus y is, because f is a homomorphism, this is fx plus fy, so that is 0. So what does that tell me? It tells me that x plus y is also in the kernel of f. Okay, similarly, if I take x and I multiply it by a ring element R, I want to know whether Rx is in the kernel, but again f of Rx is just, I can pull the R out and write it as R times f of x. Okay, but now this is just nothing but R times x was in the kernel, so this is R times 0, and we have sort of proved this once before that R times 0 must actually be 0. Okay, how do you do it? You write 0 as 0 plus 0, you expand out and so on. So R times 0 will be the same as R times 0 plus R times 0 and so on, right? So we have seen this argument once before. So what does that lead us to? We have shown that f of Rx is actually a 0 too. Okay, so which means that we conclude not only is the sum in the kernel, the scalar multiplication of an element of the kernel by a ring element is also in the kernel. Okay, and these two properties are exactly what it means for the kernel to be a submodule. So the conclusion is that the kernel of f is in fact a submodule. Okay, and I leave the other one for you as an exercise. Show that the image is also a submodule. Okay, now here's the other important fact about kernels and images. Again, something that just comes from groups. The map F is injective, which means it's 1 to 1. So let me say what f is. F is a map from M to N, homomorphism of R modules. Let f be this. Then f is injective, which means it's a 1 to 1 map if and only if the kernel of f is 0. Okay, by this I mean the 0 submodule. Similarly, f is surjective, which means it's onto, it's an onto map. So injective is the same as saying it's a 1 to 1 map. Surjective just says it's an onto map. This is if and only if the image is the whole space N. Okay, and again I am going to leave this as an exercise, just from follows just from the definitions more or less. Okay, so and again you have seen this in the context of groups already. Fine. So now coming to the main theorem, it's called the first isomorphism theorem. Again, this is like the first isomorphism theorems you have already seen in the cases of groups and rings and so on. So let me give you the statement of the theorem. So this is usually called the first isomorphism theorem for modules. So this is for modules now. So what does this say? It says that if I have, let f be a homomorphism, M to N be a R homomorphism, then it says that M modulo the kernel of f, that's the quotient module M mod the kernel, is isomorphic. So this is a symbol for isomorphism. It's isomorphic to the module image of f. Okay, remember image of f is a submodule of N, it's a module in its own right. M by the kernel, it's a quotient module. The claim is that these two are isomorphic as R modules. Okay, so the M modulo the kernel is isomorphic to the image. So that's as in all the earlier cases, that's the statement of the first isomorphism theorem. And in fact, the proof is very quick here, because we have, remember, we already have a first isomorphism theorem for groups. Okay, so proof, recall, so let's do the following. Let's forget the fact that M and N are modules for the moment. Think of them only as groups. They have an underlying additive group structure. So think of M and N as additive groups, and recall that a module homomorphism is in particular a group homomorphism. Right? The first axiom just says that f of x plus y is fx plus fy. So I can think of this map f firstly as being a group homomorphism between the underlying abelian groups. And now for groups I already have the first isomorphism theorem. So remember, the notion of kernel here is exactly how we define the kernel in the case of groups. Right? It's everything which maps to the identity, but the identity is exactly 0 in this case. Okay? So the kernel is exactly the kernel in the sense of groups, and therefore by the fundamental theorem of group homomorphisms, or the first isomorphism theorem if you wish, first isomorphism theorem for groups, sometimes also called the fundamental theorem of group homomorphisms. So look back on those lectures where this was derived. By this we conclude, we know the following, that we can define a map from the group M modulo the kernel of f to the group image of f. Okay, these are both now just the additive groups. There is a map between them, so maybe I'll call it something, let's call it phi. What is this map? Which is, it sends M plus kernel of f, the coset, to just the value f of n. Okay. So we know that this is an isomorphism of groups Okay, so everything is only now for groups, the underlying additive groups. Okay. Now what we want to show is that very same map, the claim is that this map phi is in fact, it's more than just a group homomorphism or a group isomorphism. It turns out also to be an R module isomorphism. Okay. So what does that require us to do? In addition to the group structure here, what we have in M modulo the kernel is a scalar multiplication by elements of R, the same thing on the right side. So we just have to now show that phi also respects the scalar multiplication. If we do that, then automatically phi becomes a R module homomorphism. It's already a bijective map because it's we know it's an isomorphism of groups. We have already done that work, so we don't need to redo it. So we only remains, because we are appealing to the work that we have already done in proving this theorem for groups, it only remains to show one simple thing here, that phi respects the ring, the scalar multiplication. So I need to check that when I apply phi to R times a coset, I need to check whether this gives me the same answer as R acting on phi of this. Okay. If I check this, it means that I can pull out the ring elements R. So I have to check this for all ring elements R, for all elements M of M. Okay. So let's just use the definition of phi and check what the left hand right hand sides will be. So observe that the left hand side is R acting on M plus kernel of F. So let me compute that. So the left hand side is just R acting on this is, by definition, I just have to act R on the representative, and phi of Rm by definition is F acting on Rm. Let's go up here and check F of M was the definition of the map phi. So here it is just F acting on the representative Rm. So similarly, the right hand side was R acting on phi of this coset, but in this case this is nothing but R acting on Fn by definition. Okay. Now observe that R acting on Fm and F of Rm are actually equal to each other, because F is in fact a homomorphism of R modules. Okay. So observe, we started out this proof by, so okay, let's first say we are done now, so therefore done, proved. Okay, so that completes the proof of the first isomorphism theorem. So observe the way we have proved this, the strategy here has been to first show that to first ignore the fact that M and N are R modules, think of them only as abelian groups, only think of F as a abelian group homomorphism, and then do everything, appeal to the group theory statement for the first isomorphism theorem. But then finally, after we've shown it's an isomorphism at the level of groups, we go back and now see whether we can also incorporate this additional scalar multiplication into the picture. To do that, what we finally end up needing is this additional statement about F, that F was not just a group homomorphism, it's also a R module homomorphism. Okay, so this is a very important statement. The first isomorphism theorem, as always, is it tells you that the images of homomorphisms can be identified with certain natural quotient modules. Okay.